Hey, this is a hornet. It has a huge bloody mouth. It is the king of bees. This is a silk orchid. It has a pair of separating sickles. It is an insect assassin. What will happen if the hornet and the silk orchid are locked together? No more nonsense. Let the hornet enter the silk orchid's territory directly. Let's see. After the hornet enters, the silk orchid seems a little confused. It chooses to avoid fighting, and the hornet crawls around inside. It makes it easy for the silk orchid. The silk orchid falls to the ground. It waved its sickle to defend itself. At this time, the hornet ignored the orchid and continued to crawl around. The orchid took the opportunity to stand up again. Now it has aimed at the hornet. However, it was shocked by the hornet's momentum and did not choose to attack. But the hornet was not polite to the orchid and launched a surprise attack directly. It climbed on the orchid and pushed it down and bit it fiercely. The orchid lay on the ground and struggled desperately. The hornet bit the orchid's abdomen again. The orchid twisted its body in pain. The strong will not pity the weak. The hornet continues to launch a fierce attack. It fights hand-to-hand with Canlan. Canlan struggles to stand up. At this moment, it can't even use the knife. It falls to the ground again. The hornet bites Canlan's belly fiercely. Finally, Canlan becomes desperate. It uses a series of stabs to lock the hornet, but the hornet breaks free. At this time, the hornet is completely furious. It turns back and bites Canlan madly. Canlan can only passively defend. It can't stand up. Canlan still wants to bite the hornet, but it found that it could not bite the orchid anymore. The hornet bit the orchid's body all over. It turned around and bit the orchid's head. The orchid could only use a brush to protect its head. The hornet was too fierce. It moved and sucked. It bit the orchid so hard that it lost its temper. At this time, the orchid had no strength to resist. It could only let the hornet wreak havoc on it. It bought a new phone. Shooting the hornet is refreshing. Finally, the hornet felt that the enemy was no longer a threat and began to clean up its mind. The battle was over. Holy shit! The orchid was killed by the hornet. It seems that its sword has become old. Then let's get another young orchid to see if it can fight the hornet. Okay, let the hornet enter the orchid's territory directly. Let's see. The orchid was startled by the hornet. Although the orchid has already made an ambush posture, it dares not attack rashly in front of the hornet. But the hornet was not so indecisive. It began to attack the orchid and bit the orchid's sickle directly. The orchid struggled in pain. The orchid also wanted to bite the hornet. This made the hornet even more angry. The hornet blocked the orchid again and bit it fiercely. The orchid desperately kicked the hornet away with its long legs and barely stood up, but the hornet pounced on it again and suppressed the orchid. The hornet gnawed directly at the orchid's neck. The orchid could only raise its sickle to protect its neck. Then the hornet went to bite the orchid's body. The orchid was already desperate. It leaked a lot of green juice. It was seriously injured. The hornet began to devour the delicacies of the world. It locked all the juice into its stomach. It was used as the orchid's body fluid. It could replenish the hornet's energy. Of course, the hornet would not let it go. The man is almost done for. The hornet goes to bite the silk orchid again. The silk orchid is already on the verge of death. It doesn't take long for the hornet to eat. The hornet is full. The silk orchid is sucked dry. Helpless. WTF? Even the silk orchid is gone. Haha. Today the hornet knocked over 2 silk orchids in a row. It seems that the overlord of the division is really not a joke.